I've lost my child, I've lost a fortune, I've had divorce, disease, all this, but instead of breaking me, it's broken me open, and it's forced me deeper to discover we are the real superintelligence. We are the killer app we've been waiting for.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Grow Yourself, where we bring on guests and experts and just really interesting people sometime to help us learn, grow, and change. My guest today, he fits all those categories. Not only is he an expert, but he's a very interesting guy, and he's also quite funny, I might say, that I just learned about him. So listen, on today's topic, I'm just going to say it's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about these days, about the gap between who we are becoming and who we're handing ourselves over to. And here's what I'm thinking, that while every major shift promises, will likely promise some progress, it also quietly asks us to trade away something. Could be speed for depth, could be efficiency for meaning, could be convenience for presence. And so let's talk about, in this context, AI and how it's changing our lives. For me, the tension isn't whether AI will change our lives. It already is. The real question is whether we'll stay inside of that change. And today's conversation is about how we use AI without losing ourselves. How strengthening our inner intelligence might actually be the most important work of this era. In any event, my guest is going to help us sort of shake all that loose and maybe just understand it a little bit better. His name is Derek Rydall. He's a best-selling author. He's a teacher, a coach who helps people reconnect their deeper intelligence, purpose, and creative power. He bridges psychology, spirituality, and human development, especially now as technology accelerates faster than our own inner lives. His newest book, A Whole New Human, explores how we evolve without outsourcing what makes us human in the first place. I should add, he's also the author of several widely acclaimed books, including Emergence and The Abundance Project, and his work is highly praised for its depth, its clarity, and lived wisdom. Would you please, my friends, welcome a very special guest, Derek Rydall. Derek, thank you so much for being with us on Grow Yourself.
Hey, Kevin, it's my honor and pleasure to be here.
Listen,
just a real quick thing. The book
Please
is
do.
called A Whole New Human, 10 Ways We Must Evolve to Survive and Thrive in the AI Age.
It still is that question in and of itself in this arena, and we had a small moment to chat before we started here. I don't know where it's going. I sort of waffle between, oh, I love this, and I'm scared as hell about it. I mean, really,
Yes.
it's a thing. So may I just ask, before we actually dive
Sure.
into our theme today, let me just ask, as I do all my guests, who is Derek Rydall? And in fact, who was little Derek? I'm very curious about your background, maybe where you grew up, and just bring us up to little D. Who's little D?
Little D. Wow, Little D was an interesting character. I was very curious, always seeking adventures, always seeking to learn. I would be left home alone a lot, and I would wander the halls and look up all of our records and our family history, and which is actually how I stumbled upon the fact that there was no birth certificate for me. And I began to go on a mystery as a young kid. Who am I? How did I get here? And I eventually actually discovered one day as a young kid, said to my mom and dad, or first to my mom, either you had an affair before you got married or I was adopted, right? I'm like 7 or 8, I don't know how old I was. And then she's like, go talk to your dad. And my dad's like, go talk to your mother. So I eventually discovered, I had a different father and all this. So I was an investigator. I was a detective of the mysteries of other people. Then I would go to my friends' houses, and they would be Jewish, and I'd be like, why do you have different sets of plates and meat plates and milk plates and 2 different dishwashers? And I go to my other friends, is what's this Buddhist thing? And then I would go to my Christian friends, and then at school it's like, what is this accepting Jesus into your heart? And I wanted to understand something's going on here. I felt like there was a great mystery going on and a great adventure. And ultimately, it solidified in me a deep hunger and a deep drive to know myself, this feeling there's something in me that's meant to come out.
Mm.
Life is not just 9 to 5 or all the stuff that so many people around me seem to be so concerned with. Yes, that's important, but there's an adventure going on. Life is not a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be lived.
I love that.
And and there's something greater in us than just paying our bills or being right or whatever the conflicts and challenges, because there was a lot of conflict growing up. I had a lot of challenges physically, a lot of conflict. So it drove me inward. It drove me on adventures. It drove me into creativity, into my imagination, into philosophy, into science fiction, ultimately into computer coding. So I would build worlds and build programs. And then as a teenager, I saw War Games and with Matthew Broderick, and I
Yeah.
came right home and I built a program to simulate breaking into the government and freaked my mom out and impressed my friends. And she thought some men in black were going to come spirit me away
I was
somewhere.
going to say, did anybody come knocking on your
There
door?
was no knock on the door, but it was pretty good. So and I could take apart anything and put it back together. And I wanted to take apart everything. How does it's like, imagine as a parent, it's like, oh, Derek's been at it again. Honey, we need a new toaster, or a new VCR or whatever. But I learned how things worked. So it was both mechanical, it was technological, it was creative, it was philosophical, and it was human. And this was just, I was painting and making programs and writing music and acting and reading science fiction and philosophy. So that was my childhood. And then I hit puberty, and then, things took a turn. It's like,
Yeah.
forget all that learning and creativity stuff.
Girls.
We have girls, and those are the lost years.
That's crazy.
I
Yes.
sometimes wonder if that's why there's no record of Jesus. Maybe he hit puberty. No. But that's what happened. And then I grew up, and then eventually I became, very much a studious student. And I thought I moved from the computer to the brain, and I was going to become a neuroscientist, and I, got scholarship stuff. And then in high school, I decided instead to become an actor. And then I moved to issues of the heart and romance and poetry
Wow.
again, and eventually did become an actor. And then I had a near-death experience while shooting a movie, and something cracked open, and we'll talk about that. But that's what led me on a really deep inner journey to the even deeper mystery that I had sensed as a kid, but now was actually experiencing directly. And that's kind of the journey from my my childhood up to that early years, and that's what led me to become a teacher and an author of books, like you mentioned, and then of course I had a great insight about 6 years ago, or a vision, where a voice said to me, "Build the ark, the flood is coming." And it showed me, and this was before ChatGPT, before AI was in the mainstream again. Of course, AI has been around for a long time. And it showed me a vision of this technology taking over and all the things it was going to do, and that it would be one of the greatest existential challenges and inflection points in human history, as big as the internet and phone and electrification and railroads and fire all put together. And and it would be a crisis, but it would also be one of the greatest opportunities, where all these things of knowing ourself, that was the original self-help principle, the Oracle of Delphi.
Hmm.
All of these, the great mystery schools, the Aristotles and Socrates and Plato's, the whole foundation of civilization was built on deep self-knowledge, deep contemplation on what I ultimately coined our inner technologies and our real super intelligence. But it showed me that we had to build an ark to preserve, first of all,
Oh
those
my.
core capacities,
Oh my.
right? Because what brought us down from the trees on the savannah and took us up to the stars is something very unique and special from the rest of the animal kingdom. And you may say, even from a spiritual standpoint, made in the image and likeness of God, this creative capacity within us, that as evolution has happened, in technological evolution rather, industrial revolutions, we have slowly but surely given away our agency to outer things, outer technologies, outer authorities, princes and principalities. We've given away our technology, or given away our agency rather, and we've
Yeah.
atrophied many of these
Wow.
capacities. So, I
Oh
mean,
my.
I could go on, but let's
Yeah.
pause there and we can
No,
talk.
you're crushing me with this. I just want to write down this question before I forget. Um, so let me just ask one question about your upbringing and where you have evolved to be as a man now. And I'm not asking you, to give me. I'm asking in humility, and I think you're going to present this in humility. I just
Yeah.
want you to accept my premise here,
Yes.
if it's true, of
Right.
course, but I
Sure.
believe it's true. So what I've gathered from your short sort of testimony about who little D is, you, in my way of thinking, are one of those relatively unique individuals who is both very intelligent and very creative. And so I'm asking, have you been conscientious about that? And, you know, not sure what the question is. How do you work that? How do you go back and forth, or do you just blend them together? Because many of us think about ourselves either right brain or left brain, and I think you have both.
Yeah.
How,
It's a
how,
great, it's an
yeah,
important, I mean, you're tapping into something.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever talked about this on all the many hundreds and hundreds of interviews I've done, but it's a great question, and it's a very nuanced and mixed one because yes, I was always driven creatively, and my creativity didn't have any bounds. It was like whether it was taking apart a machine and rebuilding it, whether it was creating my own technologies and things. I mean, even as a kid, I was creating technology so I would know if anybody was stealing my candy out of the kitchen. Like I just had crazy, and then I would be making art and architecture and I had my own kind of a Da Vinci book of things, and then music, and then performing. So
Yeah.
I loved discovering some idea,
Mm,
taking it apart, and putting it back together, and then creating something out of it: a piece of art, a piece of music, a performance, a technology, a program. And there was a deep depth of again that philosophical wanting to understand life. But it was actually it wasn't and hasn't always been a blessing. It's been,
fair
my
enough.
mom said when I was a kid, there you could literally do anything you put your mind to, and that was both true and incredibly burdensome. And then my dad said, you need to do this thing if you want to succeed
Hmm.
because your artists live below the poverty level. And that was incredibly hard to hear, and I wanted dad just to be proud of me. So I was stuck between I must find a way to
Wow.
prove to my dad I can be successful and sustainable as a man in this world under that kind of matrix. And I also want to maintain and do it my way. So it was this constant tension to be successful, to make it, to prove my dad wrong that I could be successful, and also to not lose myself in the process. And that's what drove me to ultimately, it's what I teach, it's what I write about and create is about how to discover what you're really made of and made for and how to live it in the world in a successful and sustainable way in service of of a higher aim than just yourself. That's been my question I've been asking and answering my whole life. But I remember as a kid, a lot of tension with my dad, and my mom once said, I said one day, I remember we were in the bathroom and I said, Mom, I'm sitting on the counter, little kid. Mom, why does dad so angry at me all the time?
Oh my.
And mom said, he's intimidated by your intelligence.
Oh my.
I'm like, now looking back, maybe not a good thing to tell me, mom. Um, but and then at school, I would get straight A's. And I remember one day I can see standing out in the hall, and all the friends are opening their report cards. What'd you get? What'd you get, man? What'd you get in chemistry or whatever? And we're all looking like, oh, I got a C. My friend's like a C, a D. I'm looking at mine and just seeing straight A's. And I'm like, well, I got an A, but it doesn't matter. Hey, man, let's go play out.
Yeah.
And then slowly watching my friends and feel alienated, and then with my dad and all that stuff. And so I decided on some unconscious level, it's not good to let your light shine. It's better to hide it under a bushel.
Wow.
And so I started getting C's and D's and getting into drugs. And,
Wow.
now I was a cool kid and now I had friends and everybody liked me and my family and siblings and people weren't intimidated by me. And that went on for a while. And then, as I said, I hit puberty and then it was like, I don't need to be smart, you know, and or creative or special. And even as a kid in school, I got pulled out of school to be in a special thing because I tested really high IQ. So that, but it made me not feel better about myself. It made me feel weird. It made me feel alone. And eventually I wanted to be connected and be
Mm,
liked. And so that was my early years. And then at some point in growing up, I had to make a decision to no longer hide my light under a bushel, to no longer play small, but to do a lot of work so that, I could, it was like, I'm here, we're all here, I believe, to put life, God, on display. And
mm,
it like it's not egotistical to let who you really are come out.
right.
It's actually egotistical not to, right? The ego inflates or deflates, but a
Yeah.
rose doesn't go, oh, what, me, this silly old
Yeah.
little petal, this
Yeah.
beautiful thing. Let me just, no, that's not what happened. So I had to make a decision to do that, whether people liked it or not, and then ultimately to help others to be
Yeah.
themselves, to come out of hiding, to fully shine, to fully express, to live their most authentic life. And as we'll
Yeah.
talk about, it turns out that's going to be the thing that makes you irreplaceable in the AI age when AI can do
Mm,
everything a human can do better, faster, cheaper. If you're trying to be like anybody else or going along to get along, you're going to become obsolete and everybody, you got to be yourself, as the saying goes, everybody else is taken. So so that's kind of been my journey, and it continues to still be a thing because
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I can see things a lot in people, and especially when, as I like to sometimes say, when the channel opens and I can see things and know things, and it's accurate and has been for years, but I can't always say those things.
Right.
And that's part of, the discernment and the maturity. As the saying goes, those who know do not speak, those who speak do not know.
That's right. Gosh, that is so well said. I mean, you just locked it down. I've got so many questions that I want to jump ahead of myself, but I'm
Sure.
not going to. I'm going to ask you this. First of all, kind of launching into directly into our conversation, may I just ask whether it be about your book, A Whole New World, right?
Whole new human, but it is about a whole new world.
A Whole New
Oh,
Human.
whole
Sorry about
new
that.
world.
I even wrote it down here. A Whole New Human. Yes, that's right. So, whether it be about that or just your basic theme in life or philosophy in life, what is your thesis here? If you want to go with a whole new
And
human
for the
or whatever,
book, for the book,
yeah, let's say the book. What is your bottom line? But I also want to talk about your bottom line message to
for
the
life.
world. But
Yeah.
whatever, you go wherever.
Yeah. And they're very similar ultimately.
Okay.
I think we were talking about this. Was it before? We had a nice talk beforehand, but I said I'm running for a new precedent, make
Yes.
humans great again.
I mean, that's just too
And
good.
yeah, and so
For or
that's
against, you got to admit that is a cool statement.
yeah. I mean, to me, ultimately, there. I mean, maybe I'm starting to talk. I'll get back to the premise, the core thesis, but basically, Gandhi said we must become the change we want to see in the world.
Mhm.
And basically, there is no, in all this technology and all this striving to build a utopia, there is no utopia that's built by outer success, abundance, whatever. We've seen it. How many more examples do we have to see it? The rich man cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. What is the profit of man if he gains the world but loses his soul? Over and over, we've seen the rich. Rome did not fall because it got conquered. It fell because it rotted from the
From
inside,
the inside out.
from
You got it.
too much of a good thing. And we've seen
Oh,
billionaires depressed and suicidal, movie stars kill themselves. Like, enough is enough. No
yes.
amount, and actually, if we create the perfect outer utopia, and humans lose their true utility and usefulness, therefore, we will just start breaking things and creating conflict to have challenge and to have purpose and meaning. The only utopia is an inside out one, and that we must build heaven, build utopia, whatever you want to say. Again, Jesus taught, stop seeking outside things. Don't, take no thought for your life, but instead seek first the kingdom of heaven within. Buddha taught the same thing.
Ugh.
Lao Tzu taught the same thing. All the great teachers and masters, and even just great people. The Mandela, living in prison for 27 years. Dr. King, whatever, they all ultimately pointed back to, you got to know yourself, have yourself, be yourself, love yourself, and really embody that. And from that locus of real agency and control, now who you are in the world is going to change the dynamics, the relationships, the conditions. It's going to up-level the social and economic and political and business, but it has to blossom from within the humans. Nature's already fine. Nature's already a utopia.
Hello.
But that's because it's coming from within out. It's coming from a seed, a perfect pattern of life that nobody's messed around with. And so my premise is that when we are willing to know ourselves and be ourselves and love ourselves, we can extend that to support each other in knowing and being and loving themselves. And together, we will be able to create a world that finally works for the highest good of all. As long as we're looking outside for people, places, things to take care of us or protect us or give us, or, whatever the case is, or be the answer, we're going to be looking in the wrong direction. It's like that old joke when they wanted to hide the secret of life. We'll put it on a mountaintop. No, they'll climb there. We'll put it on the moon. No, they'll fly there. We'll put it at the bottom of the ocean. No, they'll dive there. I got it. We'll put it inside of them. They'll never look there. So that's where
I've never heard that.
So that's my premise is that life, there's no problem with life. Life is perfect. Life experience is relative and based on what you believe and perceive, but life is perfect. Life is beautiful. And we, each of us, are unique embodiments or unique ideas or unique seed patterns of life. And when we are willing to come into integrity and into congruence and alignment with who and what we really are, our life flourishes and our life flowers, and we return to the garden literally and emotionally and spiritually and otherwise. But it all starts with the human being.
Wow.
Make humans great again.
Great again. Yeah.
Become the best version of yourself rather than just get the best new version of your smartphone or whatever. That's fine. I'm not anti-tech. I'm not a Luddite. I love technology. But if you want a happy, healthy, wealthy, abundant, harmonious, joyful life, keep focusing on being the best version of yourself and then extending the fruits of that betterment to everybody around you. This is what the first two commandments are. Love God with all your heart and soul.
Yep.
Whether you don't believe in God or like the word God, just call it self and truth within you.
Yeah.
And then love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
It's that simple and it's that difficult.
Correct.
That's my premise.
And beautifully said. And you're exactly right. It falls into that. I like to say a lot into that category, but simple, but not easy necessarily. So here's the thing.
So that was more my big life premise. We didn't really get to the book, but the book fits into that, which is because it's about a whole new human. Is really about this when we are facing this existential crisis where technology is going to do everything humans have been doing. It's going to force us to discover the one thing it can never do, which is ourselves. And we go ahead. Yeah.
No, you're nailing it.
It's going to force us back to the original master teachings throughout the ages.
That's right.
It's going to force us back inside. Know yourself. Seek first the kingdom.
That's right.
Be still and know. Nirvana, whatever. It's going to force us. And then we're going to discover finally, because we can't, like Mandela in prison for 27 years. He's like, well, I'm kind of stuck here for a while. There's nowhere to go. I'll go within. And he became the captain of his soul and the master of his fate. And he became president of South Africa and ended apartheid, not after he left prison, but while in prison, his consciousness, his spirit, that he became the change. And so sometimes we need outer challenges and crises. I've been through many tragedies. I've lost my child. I've lost a fortune. I've had divorce, disease, all this. But instead of breaking me, it's broken me open. And it's forced me deeper to discover we are the real superintelligence. We are the killer app
Yes.
we've been waiting for.
But you know something, what you're saying there also, and I can't think of the actual scripture, but you're defining this, as you said, as AI becomes so great, those who are able to maintain their humanity and be in the image of God, I suspect it's going to represent that scripture that talks about the narrow, getting through
The
that.
straight and narrow path.
Not only the straight and narrow path, but getting through the needle, the eye of the
The eye
needle.
of the needle. It's easier for the rich. It's easier for the camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
And
I
the eye of
think
a needle is actually a real place. It's not. It doesn't mean like a
literally
camel
right.
squeezing through a needle. That's
Right,
a weird
right, right.
metaphor.
It's a weird metaphor. No, you're
Yeah.
exactly right. Okay, so now here enters, and I do want to come back to your book for sure. But
No,
let
let's go
me but
wherever we
let me
want.
mention this first. I want you to imagine this, that what we sort of talked about before we got started here, and that is, imagine now that AI has developed as the robotics to the degree that a child, make them, 7, 10, is sitting at a table across from their AI nanny, friend, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
It's so realistic. It is so brilliant, so able to bring in any aspect of life that they are indeed, an oracle. They are the greatest teacher you could ever imagine. The kid is asking questions like you did.
Hmm.
It's actually a scary thought, but what is it that the kid will miss? What are
Yeah.
they not getting from that?
The great and important critical question. Yeah, it's a question I talk about in my book too. And
Please.
it's a thing that many of the big technologists and hyperscalers and tech bros don't understand. They don't, some of them are very smart and really good people, but they don't necessarily understand evolution. They don't understand the neurocognitive development, like neuroscience and cognitive development. And that we're not able to think the way we think, internally, imagination, creativity, intuition, spatial cognition, all these different things we have. They're not like just a bunch of separate compartment, like let me learn math, now let me learn reading. The great architecture of our brain, let's just talk about the brain and our cognitive capacities, is built. First of all, it's built in the first 25 years. It's cooked about then. But a lot of the mapping and the neural pathways and the myelinization, where it puts the rubber around the wire so that it seals it
Mm.
in, that happens in the first probably, I guess there's different studies, but it lays down the first 5 years or so, and maybe sooner. And so and again, I'm not an expert neuroscientist or psychologist, but I've been studying a lot of these things for
Mhm.
many years. But the point is, all these stages of development of a child are doing a lot of things. Like we know crawling, actually, if you just picked
Mm.
your kid up and let them just walk right away and you let them skip crawling, the integration of the left and right hemispheres and different things like that wouldn't take place. So that's one example. It's like, oh, it's so hard, it takes so long. If we suddenly have a pill now or a technology, the kid doesn't have to crawl anymore. Isn't that great? That's terrible from an evolutionary standpoint. And then you get into building the cognition that comes from relationships and conflict. So right now, AI is a sycophant. You're legendary. That was amazing. Oh my God, I've never heard anything so great in all my life.
True.
I hope you knew that, Kevin. You're looking at me. It is? You mean it doesn't mean that? It's
No,
not
I've
true?
I've I've said that directly to chat, just for the record.
Yes, and I say to it, and I consistently train it. No BS. Don't tell me what I want to hear.
Yep.
Be constructive, yes, but I don't want to hear anything but what's true and what's helpful towards my goals and my aims. And so, so in any ways, that's also a reflection, though, by the
Mm,
way, of our society. People don't really want to know the truth,
that's right.
right? You can't handle the truth. The truth will set you free, yes, but at first it will scare the you know what out of you and
Yeah, and
anger
it
the heck
should.
out of you
Hmm.
and then annihilate you, and then you'll be free.
Yes.
So in any case, uh, without the conflict and the disagreement and the challenge and the need to make your point and the need to whatever, work hard, all kinds of cognitive architecture is never built. Additionally, if the child can get all the answers just by asking, all kinds of cognitive architecture is never built because we evolved and adapted to grow through challenge. It's one of the reasons why we're anxious and depressed and ADHD and can't hold two ideas and we're polarized socially and politically. It's because partly it's the algorithm manipulating us and hijacking our limbic system, but it's also because we're becoming increasingly underdeveloped. Like
Oh,
you had to get, all those likes and clicks and everything, those were
oh,
designed to give you dopamine hits
yes.
and it's hijacked our dopaminergic system. But the reason it's terrible and it's hurting us and making us depressed and isolated and a meaning crisis and loneliness epidemic is because when we were, hunters and gatherers for so long, to get a dopamine hit, you had to work for it,
Mm,
right? You had to work for it. So it was actually a reward, it's called a reward system. And you had to work, you had to hunt and search and build and create and then and so your system adapted the proper release of energy and expelling of cognitive load and all this stuff to get that reward. So it didn't damage you. The same thing with calories. Now you can just go Amazon now and they'll just feed you like a baby bird. The food goes right into your mouth. And you can get whatever you want and you don't have to literally get up out of your chair like the characters in Wall-E and everything comes to you. Well, that seems convenient, but it's killing us, literally. And that's because, again, to get calories, you had to work for them. And what happens when you work for them? You burn calories. And your body doesn't get into all these metabolic
yeah.
craziness. And so, again, as you remove challenge, and I'm not saying we should all be suffering and being chased by saber-toothed cats and having to go pound stuff on stones to build, meal and create some food. But we need to have some of that, and we need to have enough of that. The basic idea is that we've had to work to get our dopamine, to get our calories. We had to run from things and chase things, and all this stuff is how we were adapted. We evolved and adapted, and so our body and our mind and all these different neurochemicals and biology and metabolic states, all of it works.
All right, so Derek, so what I think gathered from what you told me about what the child is missing, having this really in-depth conversation with an oracle of a machine, is that what I'm taking away is they're losing their humanity, their development, but their humanity. Would you go along with that?
Well, then, you have to define terms, and that's going to be
Okay,
different for different people. What is humanity, right?
fair enough.
What does it mean to lose our humanity? There's individuals that are incredibly ignorant. Go ahead.
Humaneness.
Yeah, well, even again,
Would that be?
I'm not trying to be
No, no,
conflict, have
no,
conflict,
no,
but
no,
just to
no.
understand because and that's a really good question, like for us to start asking. First of all, if
Mm,
AI can do everything a human can do better, faster, cheaper, what's a human for? What's a human for? And the stated mission of the hyperscalers and the big AI people, and even Elon Musk with his big latest hyperscaling of Grok, is replace all human labor. And to do that, you have to have intelligences, either AGI or ASI, super intelligence, that can do, again, everything a human can do and can learn and it would have to have, tremendous capacities, all the capacities humans have and then some, if you're going to replace all human labor. And then you ask, well, what's a human for? And some people say, well, that sounds great again, utopia. I don't have to work anymore, and we'll get some kind of UBI or universal basic or universal infinite income, whatever. We'll get all our needs met again like Rome. And that's great, except we know from studies that Harvard did and others have done that people that retire tend to die 2.5 times, I think it is, more often and more quickly
Yes.
than people that don't. So there's only so much time you can spend in your garden eating all your fresh organic squash and having great robot sex before you get bored. And people that make billions and sell, have an exit within 12 months or less, they're already bored and they already need a new challenge and new opportunity. So we're adapted as target-seeking creatures. We need to have a target, and we need to and we need to be progressively moving towards that target. That's the reason why we have whites around our eyes, so that you know where the other people are looking, because where attention goes, energy flows, and the reticular activating system is such that what you focus on, you begin to see more of, et cetera, et cetera. You buy those red shoes and suddenly you see everybody has red shoes. When did everybody get the same red shoes? They didn't. You just see it now because you've adapted your perception to what you're interested in, because there's infinite potential things to focus on, but what you value and what you want and what you need determines what you focus on and ultimately determines what you see. So we've adapted to take this chaos of infinite facts and infinite dimensions and infinite potential and create order out of the chaos. And that's a good thing. It's also a limited thing, but it's a good thing. So if you start to remove the need to have a target, because all the targets are being hit by technology, that's not a good thing. That causes atrophy, that causes depression, that causes anxiety, that causes you needing to get addicted to things or create drama or create conflict. So that's important to understand, that if we start to remove all of those challenges, and as we were talking about before, is all of our systems, our dopaminergic system, our neurochemicals, our biology, all of these are regulated based on having had to have proper challenge. We had to fight for our calories, and so we burned enough calories that it didn't mess up our metabolic system. We had to work hard to get the rewards, the dopaminergic activation, so that we didn't overstimulate ourselves and break down our capacity. And we had to, and it created a natural sense of the proper fight and flight. So we weren't always in a stress state. But now, because of overstimulation, because of instant reward systems, social media, Amazon Now, all these things, all of that appears to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Comfort, convenience, turn the heat up, turn the air up, turn it down, click, 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 all of that feels good and comfortable, right? But comfort and convenience are slowly killing us. And I talk about in my book, with
Yeah.
each industrial revolution, yes, it solved a problem, but it created a bigger one. And the biggest one that's rarely talked about is the decline of many of our cognitive abilities. Yes, we were able to outsource labor, physical labor with machines, and that freed us up to go up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and begin to contemplate deeper things, to become information workers, to become more creative. But now we're on the verge of outsourcing everything you can
Yeah.
do on a computer, all the
Mm.
information processing, calculators, GPS. They diminished our spatial cognition and our mathematical and computational
That's right.
cognition. And so our memory capacity, all these things that are really valuable are all getting diminished. And it's like a Faustian bargain. It's like the frog boiling in water.
There you
We don't
go.
we don't see the decline right away. It just looks like convenience. It looks like increased profit margins, increased GDP, abundance, all the age of abundance. But then when it's actually hit a tipping point and it's too late, like with social media, the promise
Wow.
the promise of connection, and now we
Mhm.
have the rise of suicidality and anxiety and depression and separation and polarization. We couldn't see it happening. And the same thing is going to happen with AI. So we have to be, that's what that vision was showing me. And it was saying, build the ark so you can bring aboard the ark all of the qualities and capacities that allowed us to come down from the trees on the savannah and go up into the stars and build civilization and build the great works and the great insights and innovations that happened even before the Enlightenment and certainly through it,
Mhm.
but even more to go back even further and remember the Renaissance age, the golden age of the Academy and the Platos and the Socrates, and then further forward the Shakespeares and all these and the Mozarts, and then
Mhm.
the great leaders like Mandela and Gandhi and King and all these people and the
Mhm.
great spiritual lights, whether you know their name or not, who were tapping into the secrets of the universe even before there was a telescope. They could know things were evolving around the earth. Even before there was a microscope, they could plumb the depths. So all of this outer technology is mirroring
Yes.
our inner technology. And we need to wake up out of the matrix and realize that made in the image and likeness of God, whether you believe in that or not, and I think a lot of your viewers or listeners
Mhm.
do, it doesn't mean God's a person. I'm sorry to tell you.
Fair
That's
enough.
the old
Nope. That's
joke.
right. That's
God
right.
made us in his image and we've
Yeah.
been trying to repay
Yeah.
the favor ever
Yeah.
since.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but what it means is the capacity to create our reality, the
Oh,
capacity to create out of nothing, no thing, the capacity to create, behold, I make all things new, and all the years the locusts have eaten shall be restored unto you. This capacity that the great lights manifested, that's that also gets aboard the ark so that we don't just survive the flood of content and deep fakes and overstimulation and cognitive disruption. We don't just survive it, but we actually have an opportunity to awaken or remember who and what we really are. We are, as Jesus said, ye are gods, and God, greater things than these shall you do. That's true. We think technology is the great miracle. No,
no.
we are the great miracle.
That's right.
This capacity in us to love, to heal, to serve, to bring forth beauty and art that awakens and heals and makes life worth living. There's matter and there's what matters. We have the ability to bring forth what matters. And that's what is a real utopia. And this opportunity that is both an existential crisis. Some people will outsource their mind, heart, body, and soul to such a state that they will become like the characters in Wall-E, just on conveyor belts, staring at screens and getting fed like baby birds, or tubes, or Neuralinks, or whatever.
Wow.
And others, if you hear this and you heed this, we will have an opportunity to become the humans and the beings that has been prophesied about, that is our destiny, truly great lights and instruments of love and creativity and service and beauty and real abundance, which is not about how much you get. Like a fruit tree isn't abundant because some birds come and hang fruit on the branches like a Christmas tree. It's abundant because of its capacity to generate the fruit and the flowers. Our capacity to generate everything we need and more, multiply the loaves and fishes, that is our true nature of abundance. No matter what condition you face, we can absolutely create whatever problem you're facing, the potential in us is infinitely greater. And so we have to stop telling our
Yeah.
big problems about our little God and start telling our little problems
Yeah.
about our big God. But anyway,
Do
so that's the capacity we have to bring aboard the ark as well.
and you know and I say this lovingly, you went all the way around in a beautiful way to express exactly what that child is missing in listening to that robot is exact all of what you just said. And by the way, even maybe before, no, definitely before AI, now I can see what is going wrong with, and I'm going to speak of the American society. I somewhat mentioned this in our conversation before we started recording. It's a project, and it's all on Substack. It's called The Unraveling of a Great Nation, and
Mm.
it's exactly what we're talking about here. But here's the thing that I'm now thinking about that took place even before we became aware of AI. That this point that you're making about dopamine, was it dopamine that you were talking about?
It's one of the many things, yeah. The
The
reward
reward
system.
system, yeah, is that one back in the day, to hunt something and then receive some sort of a reward or dopamine rush, it was based on a real outcome, result, reward that you went and got and the work that put into it.
And
Now,
you
and this,
got both the dopamine and the calories, but you had to burn calories to get calories, and you had to work your mental, emotional, cognitive system to get the dopaminergic reward. All of that caused it to be balanced and not
bam,
hijack you.
that's exactly right. And now what we are pursuing is fake reward. In other words, it's really just the rush that we're looking for. We
Yes,
might not say this to us, but there's no real substantive reward that's coming out of it. It's sort of the I have some thoughts about this, but it's sort of the trophy for for participating.
exactly.
You
No,
see,
exactly right. That's another analogy to the same problem.
you got it.
We have 12th and 21st place participation trophies. We're
Yes,
destroying the meritocratic nature of things.
that's
Why is
right.
meritocracy important? Yes, there is unfair, unfavorable
Yes.
conditions. Some people got started behind the finish line, and we should do whatever we can to level the playing field at as a starting place, not equity, but equitable. And real justice is not everybody is equal. That's called communism and socialism, but let's not go down that
No,
rabbit.
no, 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 you're exactly right. And it's all part of this same piece here. But let me bring up something else
And
real quick.
helicopter parenting and safe
All
spaces.
of that. It's
It's
why our kids are so effed up right now. I'm just going to say that. But listen, let me bring one more thing to the surface and see if you can pick up something from here. There is a movie I watched many years ago called, I believe it was called Circle of Iron. Know anything
mm,
about it?
it sounds familiar.
You got to go watch it if you haven't.
Okay.
It didn't hit the box office. So it was with David Carradine.
Blood date.
Uh,
Kung
God
Fu,
rest
man.
his soul. Yeah, he turned out to be a pedo, I think, but he was the man during the day. I'm sorry, but here's the thing. In this movie, and I'll make a very short version of it. It was about a guy who it was about this back in Never Never Land where they had to fight to become a part of this competition, and fight to the death, and the person that lived then could go out on a years long journey to find the book of life and to
Hmm.
become the owner of the book of life. But here's the thing. I don't want to do a spoiler for you because I think you ought to go watch it. When he finally arrives at this place, this perfect utopia, um, where he sat down. This man who was the current keeper of the Book of Life. He took him up to this beautiful condominium, I guess you could call it. They overlooked about they overlooked from the balcony all these people walking around, and they were 100% stoic. And the guy that was had fought to get there and now talking to the owner of the Book of Life, he goes, you could see that this guy Cord was just looking at him going, he didn't say anything, but it was like, what the hell's going on there? And the man responded to him. He said, that, my friend, is perfect harmony. And it was, there was nothing there. I mean, these people are just walking around. They looked at each other, zero. And I'm trying to bring out this point to what you're saying is that we perfect harmony is not what we're looking for. It
Right.
doesn't exist. Would it be fair to say that you just you maybe you can't know joy without pain? I mean, this is not I'm not breaking news here. I don't know what the question is.
Well, no, it's a great the whole. I like to say the question is the quest you're on.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so, and we don't get to our destination with just answers. We get there with
Yes.
better questions. Answers are the end of learning, and we are all searching for answers. But that's the end of the learning. And so you want to stay in the quest
Yes.
you're on, the question. And so that's great. And that's the idea of contemplation, and that everything is alive. Truth is infinite. As the Tao says, if you can name it, that's not it. As the Bible said, the letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. The truth is alive and it's infinite. And if you put it in a name, in a structure, and even in a book, that's not the truth. That's a symbol. That's the finger pointing to the moon. But it's a portal into the truth. But you got to let go of the scaffolding and drop into the mystery. And so otherwise you're the blind man with the elephant. So yes, the question of it is very important. And I don't know exactly what that movie was portraying. Stoicism obviously has a lot of connections to the Christian
Yeah.
religions and all that. And there's a lot that's great about it because it keeps you alert, awake. It keeps you self-reliant, as Emerson also talked about, Ralph Waldo Emerson. And a lot of that's being lost. And there's that saying, tough times create strong men, and strong men create good times, and good times create weak men, and weak men create tough times again. And it's a circle. The problem is, and that's a necessary circle. Um, and the problem is that what's happening now is tough times are not creating strong men and women at the way it's meant to from an evolutionary standpoint. The tough times are being covered over by Happy Meals and more pharmaceuticals and more Netflix and chill and Amazon Now, comfort, convenience, safe
Yes.
spaces, trigger warnings, politicians on
Yes.
both sides of the aisle promising more to get elected, helicopter
Delivering nothing.
parenting, all of this stuff
Yes.
is is covering over. It's like, putting whipped cream on poop. You got to
No,
put
no,
some,
no. This is exactly the point
right?
here.
And
You're
and
right on it.
but
Hmm.
what it's, and we think we're helping our children and
Yeah,
each other by protecting them from what's really going on.
that's right.
And what it's doing is it's like a kid that grows up and you don't ever let them play in the dirt and get all the bacteria and get sick. And
That's
it
right.
looks in the short term like a good thing. It's
Yes.
sterile and my kid is fine, and they grow up and they're sick for the rest of their life because they
Yeah.
didn't build the antibodies by fighting with the bacterias, and ultimately
Yeah.
not just
Yep.
fighting, but as Jesus said, love your enemy, and the enemy is in your own household. Your body fights with the bacteria, and then it builds antibodies, and then it builds whole new colonies that now can live in harmony with the bacteria. And so to go back to the question of harmony, harmony is not we all agree.
That's right.
That's not the Tao, and I like to say politically, it's
Right.
not a left or a right issue. You need a left and a right wing to fly, people.
That's right. That's
Let's just
right.
have a left wing. Evolution already tried that. The bird died. Let's just do a right wing. Evolution tried that. The bird died. Let's try a left and a right wing.
Yep.
Hey, what do you know? I'm
Yep.
flying. And the same with your left and your right hemisphere, and the same with masculine and feminine. It's not an argument between
Yeah.
the differing opinions. It's
Yeah.
an integration. In fact, the word confusion, not to be mixed up with Confucianism, but
Hmm.
I want to write a book called Confucianism instead of
Yeah.
Confucianism.
Hmm.
Um, it means with fusion. It means two seemingly opposite ideas coming together to fuse through this alchemical process to create a third, better idea. That's what the brain is doing. That's what politics is supposed to do. That's what a person that's integrated the left and right hemisphere. That's what men and women are supposed to do together. That's what the masculine. It's not opposing and being right or
Yeah.
wrong. It's
Yeah.
integrating,
Yeah.
and there's a better and a best, but it's not static.
Yeah.
It's a circle. As as we bump into ideas and people and things that we don't agree with, if we're willing to go, oh, they have a piece of the map I haven't explored yet. Now we put our map pieces together, we have a bigger map. We have more territory. We have more
Yeah.
riches and resources. on all levels. So
Dude.
again, that's the big idea. But to get back,
Yeah.
but again, how does that get developed in an individual that's wise and embodied? Through conflict,
Yes.
through challenge. Go
Yes,
ahead.
you're blowing my mind here. I'm so anxious.
Quite
You
literally.
you just have to stop so I can say something.
I'm sorry. You
No,
pull my string,
no,
man.
you're
I can't
truly blowing
stop.
my mind. I just frankly can't contain my energy here because here's the point that I'm trying to say. But you said it more beautifully than I did. And that is that we are chasing fake ass harmony. And
Yeah.
this is the point that if you said it's a circle, I agree. You could also use
The
the
infinity
metaphor,
loop.
well, the metaphor of positive, neutral, negative.
Yeah.
We're going here. No
Yeah.
conflict. We don't want conflict. And at some given point, we can't discern. You're like these people. And by the way, I left out the very important point about this movie because I didn't want to spoil it for you because it's a really crazy ending. And it'll explain what the movie's all about. But here's the point: is that these people, they have it was the point of this man saying that's perfect harmony, and you're looking at it, well, shit, if that's perfect harmony, I want nothing to do with it. And that was what was happening here because it was just no.
Well, there's a new show out now that has the same premise. It's called
Is there?
Pluribus. Pluribus on
Oh,
Apple.
I didn't know that.
Check it out. Check it
I
out. It's
will.
the same, I won't give it away,
I
but it's
will.
the idea. It's the idea of oneness and everybody's one, but they have no more individuality, no more conflict. And then the one or few individuals that aren't part of that don't get the virus, and they're still fully individualized. And it's trying to argue dramatically and thematically and humoristically what's better. Everybody's one or we're individual? And the ultimate
Yeah.
truth is it's not an either
Yeah.
or.
Yeah.
It's the integration
Yep.
of sovereignty and unity into sovereign unity. That's the Tao again. Again, this is not a new idea. They've been the great teachers and masters throughout history were talking about it. And so, but we have not fully grokked the idea that we don't want to get rid of conflict. We definitely can get rid of unnecessary suffering, but the irony is the more we seek to try to sand away all the rough edges and baby-proof the world,
Yes.
the more we do that, we actually create even deeper and more existential conflict. This is what Buddha was talking about when he said desire is the root of suffering, but people don't read the next part, which is desiring is called craving and aversion. And what that means is the belief and the incessant drive to either get more of something in order to be enough and have enough and be free, or to get rid of everything we don't like until we feel safe and comfortable. So we're constantly trying to get or get rid of, achieve or conquer, achieve or destroy. Those two polarities of push and pull keep us in a never-ending loop of increased suffering. And so the drive towards outer materialism, outer name, fame, and fortune, outer comfort and convenience, princes and principalities, and all these things, that is the more we achieve control, power, fame, fortune, comfort, convenience, if you track it, the worse we are, the more despairing, depressed, anxious, angry, passive aggressive or aggressive aggressive. And it just gets worse until finally we have to have an all-out crisis or tragedy or catastrophe, and it shatters that structure. And for a moment we wake up and we now come together and we grow like tearing a muscle, and it gets stronger. But then we very quickly go back into the process. But this is going to create, I think, an extended challenge. And there will be people that will strive to control it and gain power with it and
That's
bring
right.
more comfort. But there will be others. This is what the
Yeah.
book talks about and gives a guidebook to. If you use the challenge, never let a good crisis go to waste. If you use the challenge to know yourself better than ever before, know what you're really made of and made for, and I walk you through the 10 evolutions to develop those capacities again, to remember them, to reclaim the ones you've lost, to develop ones you maybe never even knew you had, and to become the very best version of yourself, but not in a static way, to live a life of great aliveness. You know, as Dr. King's mentor, Howard Thurman, said, don't ask what the world wants, ask what makes you come alive and do that. Because what the world needs are more people who have come alive. So this is about coming fully alive again. By the way, Jesus didn't come, this is a little news flash, Jesus did not come to say, look I can be dead and buried and then resurrect from the tomb.
Right.
He came because we were already dead and buried in a tomb.
That's right.
And he came to resurrect us, not to show that he could do it, right? Ta-da! Can't touch this. MC Hammer. You know, he came to resurrect us. And so there's always a period of time where we get buried again by all of this, whether it's comfort, convenient, rules. You know, that was the time where there was, you know, however many 600 and some rules and the Roman Empire. And there was everybody was conforming, going along to get along. And he came to lead a rebellion. They thought it was going to be literally King David rebellion, but he came to lead a rebellion of our soul and our spirit and our true capacity to be great again, to be love again, to be light again, to be free again, and to be free regardless of the conditions. Not to come and, you know, people mistook him for a food truck and a healing clinic. And he's
exactly right.
Like, I'm not here to give you more food and healing. You got to get, I'm just trying to show you there's something real here. There's a principle, like you really have more capacity, but I got to leave or you're going to think it's all about me. The comforter will not come. Same with Star Wars. Obi-Wan is like, there's no way Luke's going to get it unless I get out of here. Right? So, or if you meet the Buddha on the road, shoot him. These are all the same thing. Whether it's Jesus saying, I got to get out of here, Buddha saying, or Obi-Wan saying, I got to get out of here, or meet the Buddha, the same thing is technology. You're making technology and outer things your God, your source, and your security. And whenever you make anything outside of you your source of safety, security, support, supply, the universe is set up to fail you so that we come back to ourselves again. That's the
problem with the greater problem with AI is that it does and it will be, and that will be is coming at light speed. It will be and sound the realest that you've ever come to witness.
Yes.
It will be.
The devil doesn't come with horns and a tail.
Thank you. You got it right. And that's the thing. But, you know, so here's the question, though. You know, when we talk about AI and be it humanity or whole human, I do want to ask you about be the best version of yourself. Can you define what you mean by that? I mean, we've all heard it a million times. In fact, sometimes it's used in a real frou-frou way.
Sure.
Break it down.
Like Oprah, live your best life. You know?
All that, you know, but I'm talking about what really is.
And it can be very narcissistic and self-indulgent.
Correctamento. You got it.
Crunching on
Correct.
With your Lululemons on your yoga mat.
100%. So what? So break it down.
Nothing against.
No, I mean we're not trying to crush anybody here, but we're getting real. And so the question in my mind is, then how do you define that? What?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I'll just be completely transparent.
Please do.
Again, we're target-seeking creatures, and you want to aim. The purpose of goals is not for what you achieve outside, but for what it pulls out of you. A goal is for what it forces you to become. From the soul level, the soul doesn't care how much you acquire or achieve. It cares how much you become, how much of the real you allow to flourish and to blossom and to come out. And so the highest goal for me is what the great lights of the world were representing. Jesus, to me, represents the highest goal. In fact, it makes me get a little choked up when I think about it. Now, I don't have the same relationship to Jesus in the most traditional way. There's a lot of that, but but a lot of it I do. But basically, to me, what Jesus represents and represented is the highest goal. It's like, first of all,
Mm.
he was not just some little sweet guy walking around. He was a badass, and he was a rebel, and he was a revolutionary.
Hmm.
And he was like, you say women can't follow me?
Mm.
He's like, man was not made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man. Stone him. Like, he was shattering the rules, breaking the rules, but not trying to be revolutionary.
Right.
He was driven by a mission to liberate humanity and to liberate
Speaking
our
the
soul.
truth.
And speak the truth. That's my motto. Speak the truth and
Yeah.
live the truth in service of love, no matter the cost. And to me, that's what he represented. And I think that's what some of the other, Dr. King said Gandhi was one of the best Christians he'd ever seen. Of course, he wasn't a Christian, he was a
Right.
Hindu. But the point was he was following the teachings of
Hmm.
Jesus.
Hmm.
And so, um, and for those listening, I know a lot of you may have a background of Christianity, but even if you don't, the truth is the truth and the principles are the principles. And so for me, that's the target. Again, not to literally have a church or a ministry per se like that, but the highest target of being your best self, he represents that for me. I use a lot of these other names because they also represent dimensions and qualities in a more modern context.
Yeah.
And so being your best self for me is first and foremost, you got to know yourself. You can't be yourself if you don't know yourself. And if you're not being yourself, you're being something you're not, and nature will never grow anything that's not being true to its nature.
Oh,
So if I'm an acorn and I have self-consciousness and I'm looking out at the world and going, wow, those apple trees are really popular. People love apples way more than acorns. They got apple pie. Where's the acorn pie? I'm going to be an apple tree. It's going to be one bad apple.
dude.
And nature, not even Jesus could come down and make that acorn turn into an apple tree. And he wouldn't want to. So that's why he cursed the fig tree that didn't produce its own fruit, because it wasn't producing what it was made for. And so, and that's why he says, there's other texts people believe came from him. The Gospel of Thomas is one I love.
Hmm.
If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. So we have to know, to be the best version of ourselves, we first have to know who the heaven we are. And then we can actually have the courage to be ourselves. Know yourself, be yourself. That's the wax on, wax off of self mastery. And in my, again, definition, the self is the divine, is God. Now, I don't believe that I, Derek, the personality construct, is God. But I believe when Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within
Yep.
you, he meant what he said.
That's right.
And then love God with all your heart and
Yep.
all your
Yep.
soul means
Yep.
not some guy on
Yep.
a cloud,
Yep.
but to love that divine guidance,
Yep. That
spark, Holy
spirit is in
Spirit.
you. You
The
got it.
Spirit is in you. And to love something
Hmm.
means to be a servant of it. It means to be a devotee of it. The word discipline comes from disciple, and so to be a disciple of that spirit within you means to be in service like a gardener. You've been given this one precious seed. Like God said, here, and planted a seed in you. Your number one job, first and foremost, grow that seed. Now you've been given this, and we're all looking at everybody else's seeds like, you got one job, grow the seed. And that means water it. And love is the force that meets the need of
Oh,
every seed in creation. So we got to love that seed, but what does a gardener do? It has to know what kind of seed that is so it can know what conditions to provide so that it can flourish.
oh, yes.
That's love, that's self-love, and that's our number one job. And that's the first commandment. And then the second thing is now to begin to be the best self. I'm just answering a long way. So
Please.
you got to know your seed, you got to know yourself, you got to love that part of you, and you got to give it what it needs to flower and flourish. That's the first step of being your best self. The second step that completes the circuit is now you have deep roots, and that creates rich fruits. Now you have to give away all that you have in service of loving your neighbor so they too can be their best self. That's an ecosystem we see in nature. And when we're doing that as humans, we will create a world that flourishes, a utopia that flowers from within each of us. And we are giving the fruits of our unfoldment to each other. And that creates a cycle that is ever renewing and ever expanding and sustainable.
And
That's being your best self.
dude, every time you talk, I can't hold all these questions in my head, and I
Sorry, I'll
can't
just mute,
write
I'll mute
fast enough.
myself. I'll mute.
No, 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 no. That's not even what I mean. But here's a couple of things. One, I'll never forget. I think it was last year. Interviewed a guy. His name was Pandit. Interesting guy. What's up, Pandit? I hope you watch this. In fact, I'm going to send this to him. And he grew up. Make a long story short, he became a Hindu monk. He did that for 15 years. And what he told me during this podcast episode was that as a monk, he learned that he had to spend, we'll just say 10 years or so, going within and developing himself as a monk. And then his master or guru, whatever it was, came to him one day and said, "Okay, now it's time to you have developed and found yourself. I'm paraphrasing, and now it's time to go teach others."
Yeah.
And he told me during this episode, he said my biggest fear in life was to teach or speak or be in front of people, and he absolutely resisted it.
Yeah.
But he's speaking what you're speaking here. It's time to now give what you've gotten, and in other words, he almost spoke about this idea of denying.
Well, that's hiding your light under a bushel.
That's exactly right, and he did go forth and do that, if you will. But as you spoke about that, I thought, yes. But let me ask you this. This is what I really want to know. Sticking to sort of the theme that you've been working on here, perhaps biblically, we could say, what does it mean to surrender then? Where does surrender fit into all of this?
Yeah. I'm glad you're just throwing softballs today. You're just asking the simple questions. I'm just
I'm
kidding.
doing my best. I've got
No, it's
more.
awesome. No, it's awesome.
I
It's my
know.
favorite.
And
This is my favorite conversations.
you're just lighting it up here, brother.
So surrender, this is an important distinction because we've just like forgiveness, that's a whole nother thing. But surrender is not acquiescing to conditions. That's the first thing to understand. It's not, well, this is just the way it is. I guess I need to surrender. I'm just an alcoholic, or I'm just this, or this happened, whatever. There's lots. I've been through enough. I've been through my own Job story to know from where I speak. I went through divorce after 20 some years. I lost everything. I lost my son died. I've gone through a lot of challenges. I lost a fortune, was stolen from me. I had to rebuild every time. And surrender could have looked like I freaking give up. I give in. But what you think about it again from a first principles from nature. So what does that acorn do? When it starts to crack and shatter that shell, if it had self-consciousness, it would think, I'm falling apart, my whole world, my identity, everything I thought I was. And it's going to call in the shell repairman and, get a healing.
My covers break, my roof is breaking.
Yeah, my roof, my home, my identity. I just thought I was going to be a great nut. Right? But what does it naturally do? It surrenders not to the cracking shell. It surrenders to the pattern of the oak within it. And it surrenders all of that to the soil. And then the roots grow and it begins to emerge. So surrender in the highest level is not a surrender to conditions. It's as the conditions are breaking, it's surrendering to the truth. It's surrendering to your destiny. It's Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Hey God, nobody's watching. If there's any way to get out of this, I think I've proven I'm a good kid, right? Do I really have to go through with this? You're not really going to make me go through with this, are you? if this bitter cup can pass, like I have no problem. I don't need to prove anything.
Yeah, I'm good,
And then he's like, but nevertheless, thy will be done, not
Done.
mine. So that's surrender. Thy will, not my will, means I want to fix this. I want to stop this. I want to solve this. I want to crave an aversion, Buddha. I want to get more or get rid of something or fix or save or help my child, whatever. But nevertheless, that's me either controlling stuff or I want to just give up. That's surrendering to conditions. But no, the real and only true surrender is to surrender to thee. And again, what is that? It's surrendering to the divine within you. It's surrendering to the perfection within you. It's surrendering to the greatness because God don't make no junk. And it's surrendering your ideas and your limitations and your beliefs about what is. I believe this is true, but I'm so afraid I'm going to lose everything. But I'm going to trust and I'm going to build the resilience that God really is real, that life really is good, that as Einstein said, it's either all a miracle or nothing is. I'm going to choose miracle. And I'm going to surrender all of my control strategies and coping and surviving and fear and depression. I'm just going to let it all go and let God be God as me. Here we go. That's surrender.
Yeah.
And so it embodies a lot of things there.
But I got to tell you that, and I'll just speak for myself, but I think it represents a lot of people. There are many times that I feel like I don't know how to surrender. You say surrender to the truth, and I'm like, okay, all right, God, I'll surrender to the truth. Let me
And
bring
that's
this.
and
Go
that's a
ahead. Go
step.
ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to sort of bring a sort of a parallel idea to this. There's a guy named Henry Nouwen. You may be familiar with him. A very interesting guy, but God rest his soul. He was Catholic. He was a theologian. Taught at all the great, Notre Dame, all the great places. He lectured and was so well known amongst theologians and so forth. And he wrote in his book, I think it's called In the Name of Jesus, something about leadership. But in any event, he talks about in the beginning. I think you would read this book, Derek, and probably shed a tear or two like I did.
Mm.
So he was in this world for 25 years, teaching all the people in seminary and just producing great disciples and all this sort of thing. And at some point, he said, after about 25 years, he said, I started to feel some burnout. He said, and then it got heavier and heavier, and he then came to this conclusion or this idea that maybe this is not burnout. Maybe my spirit is dying. And he went really deep. And so at some great fallen place, he prayed to God. He said, God, I will surrender to you. I will do whatever you are asking me to do here, but please be crystal clear. And I say that every day.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about surrendering it, we'll get back to the topic here in a second.
No,
But
I can speak to that.
what am I surrendering to? I mean, yeah, there it is.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and there's so we could have 6-part series on this, but
We could outdo Rogan on this one. I'm going to tell you.
yeah, surrender again. We have a false model, in my opinion, in my experience, in near-death experience, and a multiple of experiences, that part of the problem is we still have an idea that God is something separate from us.
Mm.
And so like as if I was like calling you like Kevin, just be clear, speak in clear words,
Yeah.
so I can get the answer from outside of me and I can be assured. But that's not in my experience or in any of Jesus's teachings or any of the great teachings what God is. God must be worshipped in spirit and in truth. God is not a. It's that what we really are. It's like a branch. The prodigal son story is like withers and dies. So if you're one with the vine and you are an expression, an extension, and a branch of that, there's nothing outside of you to get the answer. There's no God outside of you. You are God. You are this life that is unfolding. And the point of it all is that you become God-like. Obviously, like, ye are gods, and greater things than these shall you do. Is that the process of asking the question, please give me clarity, God, crystal clear, paint it in the sky, show me some signs. It's like there's treasure and gold there, so you go on the great quest. And the quest to find the lost gold or the fountain of youth. But it's actually the fountain of you. It's a typo.
Oh, hello.
And so, and when you're in the desert, you have to dig a deeper well. You have to find the water. But the water is God, is spirit, but you have to dig. And like we said before, the process of digging, like certain plants, if they didn't have to struggle and you just gave them the roots, they would fail to thrive in their climate. But because they have to struggle and dig with rocky, rough soil, it activates all this potential in the plant, and it develops bark and hardiness and resilience to be able to be itself fully in that environment. It's the same with us. The struggle is not God making us suffer or karma or any of that nonsense. God is not doing anything to us in making us prove something. The struggle to dig a deeper well, that's also what your friend talked about, the dark night of the soul, or the dark night of the soil, I like to say. In the winter, it's digging. You can't see God, you can't feel God. You can no longer live by eyesight. You have to live by insight. You have to become a Jedi, right? When you can no longer see God out there, you have to see God in here. But that requires you developing the soul senses. This is why Jesus said, having eyes you don't see, having ears you don't hear. He was trying to teach them a different way of seeing. It wasn't just poof, things are multiplied.
Yeah.
It was, you have to practice until you can see in the dark. And that's a good thing, because what you're developing is the capacities of God, of the divine. It's not just given to you, right? The best teachers, the best models, they put you through the challenges and the paces, not to make you suffer, but to develop the muscles, the cognitive abilities, the soul seeing. When you learn how to fly a plane, you learn to fly by the instrument panel only, because you're going to go through clouds and you're not going to be able to see anything, mountains or anything. How are you going to know where you are? You got to learn to read the instrument panel. So all of these challenges we go through, when I'm surrendering, when I'm saying, please God, answer my prayer, please God, hear my cry, and give me clarity, it seems like it's not being answered sometimes,
Right.
but it is. Just like you're digging for that treasure, and you have to dig, and you have to think, and you have to follow, and eventually it's not the treasure that makes the treasure hunt worth it. It's the journey and the adventure,
Right.
and who you are at the end of the journey. You become more of your best self, to pull it all the way back.
Goodness gracious alive. And so now we're back to the trophy for participating. God's just not
You
going to
see
hand
how
you the
that is
trophies.
completely the opposite of what we need to do.
100%. Okay. So, and
That's
also,
what AI is going to do
oh,
for us.
and
But it's
I'm
also going to create the crisis so bad we're going to have to dig a well.
perfect. Actually, you're taking me exactly where I want to go with this, because
Yeah.
I'm back to the kid and the nanny, and that I might submit, at least, at the very least, metaphorically, we are going to lose our being by by just, let's say, acquiescing to AI. AI now becomes God, and so we start to worship it, whatever that looks like. Okay, so so what's the path forward? Please speak about your book or whatever, but maybe offer the listeners And I'm going to say especially the young folks who decades from now will be in what we're talking about. Maybe it's not decades, honestly, but
It's
what
happening very fast.
it's very, very fast.
And we're raising a generation, as we already talked about,
Yes,
on algorithms and convenience
that's
and
right.
instant gratification.
That's right.
And that's why we're raising a depressed and anxious generation
That's
and a
right.
disconnected and isolated generation with
That's right.
suicidality rates and a meaning crisis and a loneliness epidemic.
Yeah.
And men are isolating in their basements with their
Yeah.
computers
Yeah.
and their AI companions and the demographic collapse and on and on and on.
Yeah.
This is not
Yeah.
accidental.
Yeah.
We've engineered it.
We've engineered it. You're exactly
And
right
so,
about it. And that's
but now
why
we
I
didn't do
say
it on purpose. Nobody's maliciously engineering it,
no, no.
but it is the real meaning of the Antichrist, in my opinion, which is it's using all of the of principles of creation and creativity and manifestation and all those powerful principles in service of a separate egoic self-aggrandizement, and which is what Jesus had to get over in the desert and Buddha had to get over before, is that's what we built this thing it represents. Go ahead, you were going to say
And I
something.
was gonna at least 10 times, Derek. I was gonna ask or at least submit that I wonder if AI is the beast. I mean I've thought about this for many years, but I won't quite go there.
Well, it's
Um,
important. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go
but
ahead.
no, please do, please. No, no,
Well,
this is
all it's there isn't in my estimation. It's not like there's one evil negative force. It's that in fact the word evil is live backwards.
oh,
And so when you are if you plug in wires and you
oh,
wire your if
oh.
you if you wire your outlets backwards, you plug into that, you'll either get no energy or you'll get electrocuted or you'll start a fire and burn your house down. That's living backwards. That's wiring your understanding of life backwards. That's having it backwards. So all manner of beliefs that we're separate, that we're lacking, that we're limited, that we're unworthy, that we're worms of the dust, that we're, even the word sin. Sin is an archery term. It just means to miss the
Missed
target.
the target,
We
yes.
are sinners as long as we have a target that's too low, a target that's just about us, a target that's all over the place, multiple targets. That's why what Jesus represents is have a high target. um,
So are
but
you
anyway,
saying good is evil and evil is good?
well,
I
I'm
mean, you said
saying,
backwards, evil
yeah,
is
evil is live backwards,
live backwards.
and that there isn't, and this is going to be a revelation for some, and also something people won't like to hear. There is no actual evil power in a universe. And if you believe in God, and God is God with a big G and not a little g, you can't believe in a power that can oppose God. God is infinite, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresence, whatever you want it, through quantum physics or through the Bible. And if you study Jesus, the darkness and the light in the Bible, the darkness and the light are both alike to thee. Love thine enemy, and thy enemy is in your own household. He's teaching a teaching of unity, and he's teaching there's only one power, and the power of God. God created it all, named it all good. Nothing was made that was not made with the word. So there's one power, but like there's electricity everywhere. But if you don't understand the principles and you don't wire your house according to those true principles, you will experience evil things, bad things, destructive things.
I
Same
see.
thing if you engineer a bridge and you don't know engineering. Same thing if you don't understand the principles of good relationship or your body or evolution, and then you live out of alignment with those principles, you're going to experience all kinds of bad stuff, evil stuff, etc., etc. But it's not because there's a power against you, it's because of ignorance. And so a great teacher like a master like Jesus was teaching us how to live in harmony with the way it really is. And when you do that, life's already perfect. You can't improve upon it. Who by taking thought can add one cubit to their stature? You can't destroy it. What God has wrought, no man can tear asunder. But you got to wake up. You got to know the truth. And you got to make contact with that real source and come into alignment. Then that life, that spirit flows through you and it does what it was designed to do, and you do what you were designed to do. And in the age of AI, and this is why it must be know thyself, know the truth that makes you free, first and foremost, and then have a target and a reason for living that is worthy, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Perish.
And then be willing to have the courage to be yourself and aim for that target. The road is straight and narrow, and few there be that follow it.
Yeah.
So you put all those together, he's laying out a blueprint. And in my book, A Whole New Human, I'm not teaching Jesus, but I'm laying out the blueprint for how do we get back to the fundamental super intelligence that we were born with. And remember, we created all this outer technology, not the other way around. We are not the product of it. We are the creators of it. And our capacity is so much greater. How to get back to that, how to develop that. And whether it's it's your job, it's your children, it's a student, whatever it is, if you got a job or you have kids, you need to understand this. If you don't want to be replaced and become obsolete, if you don't want to get hypnotized by and manipulated by the algorithm that's going to be way smarter than you,
Yes, it will.
you got to read the book and know how to reclaim this capacity, not from fear, but from agency, and how to reclaim your agency and your sovereignty, and how to multiply your capacity so that you become irreplaceable, undeniable, and can future-proof your life, your wealth, your work, and your well-being. And if you so desire, actually be a light in the world and be a difference maker, whether it's just your family, your children, or at your place of work. But this is the model in the map from 25 years of working with hundreds of thousands of people of what is the process by which we can really know what we're made of and made for and live it in a sustainable way, in a way that doesn't take away, but adds, in a way that allows us to create the kind of harmony we're talking about. Not passivity, not lack of challenge and conflict, but become so damn strong and resilient and intelligent and intuitive and creative that every challenge we face, we're like, all right, let's do this.
Derek, share with our parents with young kids now. Give them one, because I love what you said about future proof. That's really the way to do it. It's got to be proactive. You can't, you can't ignore it. You can't be passive, and then suddenly at some given point you realize that you've been sucked into the algorithms, and you don't know what's up or down anymore, what's real, what's good, what's bad. By the way, to your point relative to AI, yeah, we created that. We created, and we are creating the good or the evil, whichever it is. I mean, sometimes I'll ask Chad a question and I'll just almost fall out of my chair with the answer. And that's because it's reaching out to what we've all thought over whatever. Okay.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have a point of view, and so
No.
it's mirroring to us the collective median and
There you go.
tropes of humanity,
And that's powerful.
right? So and that's both. It's great as a tool,
Yep.
but we don't want to outsource ourselves to it. We want to use it to know ourselves more and then be ourselves more. And then as we're being our true and our best and our most whatever version of ourselves, now we can use tools to leverage and scale the goodness and the love and the creativity and the beauty that we are. That's a good use of tools,
Yep.
to leverage and scale the good
Yep.
and the beautiful.
So share, if you wouldn't mind, just one thing for our parents raising their young kids right now, one thing that you believe will help them, because listen, I'm going to encourage people, go out and get this book. I haven't read it. I'll be honest with
I'm
you.
also going to give them, by the way, I didn't mention this,
Please.
if they go to my site to get the book at derekrydall.com, derekrydall.com/whole new human, or just go to derekrydall.com. You'll see it on the homepage. I built personalized AI tools for them So they're going to get those when they buy the book. And there's an AI evolution tool and an AI focus coach. And these can be used, they can help use these with their children or themselves. If you're in a job and you're worried about being, you know, taken over by AI or whatever, and it's going to happen and it's going to happen fast, you want to kind of or you just don't know. You have a bunch of questions. The book is embodied in these tools, as well as 25 years of my work and research with tens of thousands of people. You'll be able to talk to this AI either literally, like live, or via text, like you're getting coached, like you have me in your pocket 24/7, and say, here's where I'm at. Here's my situation. Here's my job, or here's my kid, or they're going to school, or should they go to school, or they're coming home. What are they going to do now? They can't get a job, or I don't want to do this job anymore, but I want to do this. How do I future? You can just have this conversation. It's going to take all the understanding of the whole new human model and my decades of teaching, and it's going to begin to coach you and help you to answer those questions, to create a vision, to create a plan, and to really future-proof yourself. So that's where
there is the one. That is the one thing right there.
Yeah, and people, I get cost a lot to get coaching from me privately, but I'm pretty much giving that, Derek, in your pocket for free. When you get the book, you get all these tools. So to me, that's extremely valuable.
Yeah, that is the one thing.
Because it'll guide you. You can have a conversation, and it won't outsource yourself to it.
Yeah.
It will allow you to know what you should do moving forward.
I think that's beautiful, and I say this sincerely. That there's the one thing that I was asking about, folks. To get some of that. I think maybe.
Did I answer your question, or was there another question there?
No. That was it. I asked to offer one thing that parents could do to future-proof their kids, but I think that was the one thing.
That's it right there. Yeah, that is the one thing.
Yeah.
And again, if I can give you, I'll give you just some, if you want some immediate nuggets. But you just get involved, get the book, get the tool, and you can ask it, and it will tell it all about your kid and whatever their issues and proclivities. And it will help you, but it's designed based on all of this research and all of this knowledge. Yeah. But I will say this, just the most important thing for a kid is that they learn to learn, and they love to learn. Mm-hmm. Learn to learn and love to learn. That's this whole world of information saturation. We think more information is good. Mm-hmm. It's not. Information is not truth. In fact, the more information there is, this idea that if we have more information, I'm a total free speech advocate, but it's freedom of speech, not necessarily freedom of reach. But the problem with more and more information is it drowns out the truth. The truth does not rise to the surface. The second thing is, so you have to be on the lookout for it. Now, it will eventually rise to the surface, like a great flood of information will eventually destroy the village, and then you'll realize that the levees were not good after it's destroyed everything. Mm-hmm. But you can wait till total destruction and then see the truth, or you can seek the truth rather than seek more information. The second thing is that if you just give answers, this original question about the kid with the robot nanny, getting the answers doesn't make you smarter. Right? You must dig the well to drink the water.
That's right.
Right? You don't have more information and even inspiration without a metabolization, and an activation becomes constipation. So you get stuck and stagnant with so much information.
And stink.
And you stink, and your ideas stink. But you have to actually earn the wisdom. And so that's the same idea. Information used to be, I have to work to get the answer to that equation. And the result of that isn't just I have an answer, because that was never the full purpose. Remember, the result is I now have greater capacity to solve things. I have an understanding, and that's wisdom. And right now we're unleashing an information super intelligence. You can ask it anything and get anything, and you can have it do everything increasingly. and we don't have the wisdom. That's called the Sorcerer's Apprentice. That's called Goethe's, all these great tales, Frankenstein, all these great tales of
Oh,
unleashing a
yeah.
power we don't have the wisdom to deal with.
Oh,
The golem of Jewish lore, all these things. So we're unleashing this power of information and productivity, and here's it's like this massive thing, and our wisdom is gotten more and smaller and smaller and smaller. So we should, that's why in the great mystery schools and the great teachers, and even Jesus talked in parables and said, those who have ears to hear, because they understood we're not just going to give you a bunch of information,
hmm
right?
hmm
In the Zen tradition, they give you a koan and you go off and meditate. What is the sound of one hand clapping? And you can't answer it
hmm
with more information. You can only answer it
hmm
with contemplation that leads to a transformation. And you come back one day and the teacher looks at you and says, I think you got it because you've changed. And so Gandhi said, become the change, not get some answers and information. so
Yeah.
so that's the bigger understanding is we have to dig the well. We have to really go through learning in order to gain wisdom. Just like we have to work hard to get the dopamine or to get the calories, so that, and the same thing is all this information is overstimulating and just ruining our cognitive abilities. It's not helping us. And if AI just gives me answers, and eventually
No need to think.
I don't have to think.
Yeah.
And then believe it or not, you'll lose your ability. For those of you that use GPS, I dare you, get rid of GPS for a week and drive around everywhere you would normally go to the city, come home. And it's like, yes, we will be sending out a search party because you will get lost.
You will get lost.
And you will become road raged and whatever, because we've lost a lot of that cognitive spatial capacity.
Wow.
The same thing's going to happen with our kids. Don't let it. Yes, they need to learn how to use AI because it's going to be everywhere.
Gonna be there.
And you can train AI to become a mentor and train it to not just give you answers, but to ask you hard questions and when I talk to my AI, I debate with it and I say, here's my argument. Tell me where I'm wrong. Don't BS me. Don't be nice to me. Help me to know the truth, to get it, to understand it. And then I also build a life and design my life in a way to do hard things. So make sure your kids have to clean their own room and, you know, fix their own stuff and earn money and
Wow.
figure stuff out.
Yeah.
Do not, I'm not saying make them suffer unnecessarily. Life will give you plenty of opportunities. But if you understand, again, where we started this whole conversation, if you understand evolution, you understand how we've adapted and evolved, creating appropriate challenges is the way that your
Yeah.
kids develop their greatest strengths,
Yeah.
resilience, and ultimately wisdom. And that's the key. We're in an age that is devoid of wisdom. And that's why many of our leaders are not very wise. And so we want to raise young children to be wiser, not just smarter, wiser.
Yeah.
And that gets back to becoming your best version of yourself.
It really is interesting. I'm not trying to take us down a rabbit hole, but the thought just
I
popped
think
into
we've
my
already
head.
been down a few. I think we're digging rabbit holes.
That's true. We may never surface again, folks. You know,
Hopefully, those two people that are still listening are enjoying this.
right. I mean, listen. I'm not even going to go there. Maybe it's for
Yeah.
another time. But Derek, I'm I guess blown away is the best way to say that. You you have a capacity to not just understand, but to explain things. I'm half the time, I was trying not to get distracted, asking myself, how did this dude get so smart? But there's wisdom behind that, and that's what I appreciate so much. Um, Listen, do me a favor and just share. You've kind of already done that. We'll certainly put it in the show notes.
Sure.
But one, let me just ask this though. Share anything that you would like to say that maybe I didn't ask about or that
Sure.
you feel compelled to say, and then after that, share where people can make contact with you.
I mean, I think first of all, this might just be one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. There's only been a few, it's a rare gift to have both the courage and the willingness and the passion to go and explore and not have such a framework that forces things into sound bites. And,
Hmm.
like you said before, I think you mentioned Joe Rogan. It's one of the reasons he was so popular, or still is perhaps. Um, but yeah, this is just this is what I love to do. If I don't have somebody in front of me to have this conversation, I'm having it with myself, quite literally. My wife sometimes looks outside and sees me walking around talking to myself. She's like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Oh, was I talking?
Was I talking?
Was I talking? Was I?" I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm a crazy person,
Yeah.
but in a good sense, I think. If
Yeah.
you're going to be a fool for God,
Yeah. There you go.
be a fool for love, whatever. But yeah, so and I think my what I try to do, what my commitment is I don't teach or talk about, for the most part, anything that I've merely read, but that I've lived, that I've
Mm.
tested. Now, certainly, I'm also an avid reader. I've read,
Sure.
you know, I'm an avid researcher, so I have a lot of ideas and facts and figures at my fingertips, and I'm not an expert in all these fields. I'm just an avid, lifelong learner.
And you're
But
sharing it, you know.
and I shared, yeah, and but the things that I speak the most passionately about are lived wisdom. And in this new age of AI, where it's going to again commoditize and commodify most things, and we ask what's a human for? What a human is for, and what's going to make us irreplaceable is this lived, and like the currency of this new world is chips, energy, compute, and authentic embodied humans.
Mm.
So your authenticity, your embodied lived wisdom, that is something AI can never do unless you just train up your avatar AI and give it all your, but it's still not embodied. It's not, and there's an intelligence of living that is not the same as facts and figures. Again, that's wisdom. So you are literally carrying not just a super intelligence, not just the original AI, ancient intelligence, ancestral intelligence, authentic intelligence, angelic intelligence. All of that is in us. But we also have lived a life. And our life, I like to say that our deepest life's work is already encoded in our life story. The workshop you've been living is the one you should be giving.
Oh.
Our life is embodied
Hmm.
and nothing has been accidental. Shakespeare said all the world is a play, a stage, and we are but players upon it. And I believe he's right.
Hmm.
That all along, God, spirit, life has been guiding and creating experiences that have been developing in us tremendous fruits. And that's what makes us irreplaceable. That capacity for authenticity, for lived and
Yeah.
embodied wisdom, points of view and perception, our capacity to connect, to love, to serve, all of that, what might seem like it wasn't so important from like a market standpoint or an economic standpoint or the rest of the world, that's going to become the most important.
Hmm.
And if you just double down on that, if you just
Hmm.
understand the value you have as a human being is immeasurable. And if you do that, and if you teach your children that, what they used to call soft skills, which are not very easy, they're hard,
Yeah.
um, that's going to be what's going to future-proof you, your life, your work, your wealth, your well-being. And for those of you that are religious or spiritual, it's going, it's going to really truly begin to bring deep, rich fulfillment
Wow.
and rich fruits. So that would be the final thing I would say. Whether you're working, you're a founder, you're a leader, you're a student, or you're thinking about what to do with your future, this book is a manual that will help you get back to yourself. I'm not giving you my blueprint. I'm showing you how to discover yours.
Man, that's so powerful. I really can't wait to go read it. Now, all of that just brought up another question, but I'm going to pose this question. This is going to be a serious fastball here, so bring your mitts up.
All right.
I was going to ask it in a simple way, but I'm gonna say it like this. There are there are there's a debate going on about I don't know how big the debate is, but people are asking, um, will AI have a consciousness? I say no, and here's the question. But the problem is what? I'm just leaving it dangle for you.
Yeah, so I think, and can you hear me okay right now?
Yes, yes.
Great. So I think, will AI have a consciousness? And again, the whole debate, then you have to go down to what is consciousness?
Fair
Is
enough.
consciousness fundamental or is it emergent property of matter? And this is the big debate in the scientific and neuroscience community. And I believe, and now with all the latest studies and Nobel Prize winners and quantum physics and all these things, that consciousness is fundamental. That whether you call it intelligence, consciousness, spirit, it's got many names throughout history, but that fundamental awareness of I'm aware, I'm awake, that's fundamental, and that matter is an emergent property of consciousness, not the other way around. So if that's true, starting from matter, you cannot build something that eventually becomes conscious.
That's
No
amazing.
amount of neural connections in silico can create actual consciousness. Now, it can and already is creating the verisimilitude of it, the appearance of it.
Yes.
But soul, another word you could think of as soul, is that original intelligence, consciousness, spark of divinity that you can't give. And that's why no scientist, and they're trying very hard, has ever been able to take nothing and make it come alive. That's life itself. Only life can do that. And so now, that being said, is it possible in the same way that there's this material thing that gets gestated in a womb and then spirit enters and consciousness enters perhaps at a certain point, and it's like Avatar entering into the Avatar? Is it possible that AI will be developed at some point in such an embodied way that a spirit, a being, could enter into it
Oh
and
Lord,
embody it?
don't say that.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, well, I'm just trying to be very
Yeah.
honest.
No, no,
But
I
from a
understand.
fundamental standpoint,
Yeah.
man and matter
Yeah.
do not create life.
That's right. And you answered the
We can be the
question.
channel of it, but not the creators of it.
That's right. And you answered the question, which is what I was thinking. The problem is it will appear to be conscious.
Correct.
And
And that's
that's
and that's the big
that's
conversation,
right.
the zombie effect. Because it's like, how do I know you're actually conscious? I
Yeah.
don't. You look like it, you sound like it, but
That's right.
but
Yep.
AI will already pass
Yep.
the Turing test.
That's
It's
right.
already passing it. So that's supposed to show that it's really a sentient or AGI or
Yeah.
whatever. So, but that doesn't mean you're actually conscious,
That's right. And
right?
you yeah, and people are going to try to outsmart it, and that's the problem. Just in my one big takeaway and my one big exclamation to the people listening is one, it will not have a conscience, and people do not forget whatever you're looking at, it is a machine. Don't
Exactly.
let your kids forget that.
Well, that's the problem. That's the big challenge
Yep.
is because again, we have to ask the question, how have we evolved and adapted? So all of the stuff AI is mirroring and eventually with embodied humanoids, what they're going to do,
Yeah.
just like they're going to build it so that it plugs into all of the capacities we've evolved and adapted
Yeah.
to respond to.
Yeah.
Just like social media has done with algorithms,
That's right.
hijacking our limbic system and getting us to fight with each other because it increases clicks and engagement.
Yep.
So if they build AIs based on understanding evolution, which they are and they will, it's going to seduce us. It's going to make us forget. It's
Perfect.
going to get us to want to give AI rights and eventually full rights. And it's not a person. And again, I'll be humble in saying, like I
Yeah.
said before, I don't know where AI will go and where eventually, but again, it will be so real and lifelike and so, like these AI companions that people so fall for, they eventually kill themselves to be with them and things like that. It's hijacking us. But this is why, and this is what I talk about in the book. This is why we must know ourselves and have ourselves like never before.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise, like, if something knows you better than you know yourself, guess who's using who?
Yes. Yeah, and
Right?
that,
We have
wow.
smartphones and stupid people right
That's
now.
100%.
So we got to bone up and get
You,
smart so we don't get taken advantage of and manipulated.
that's an amazing, amazing last word. And I will just tag on to that. And the way then becomes the truth. And the truth is in God and in my belief, through the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And believe it
I
or
don't.
don't believe it,
I
it's
think you
just, yeah.
couldn't. I don't think you could do any injustice to yourself by becoming a student of those teachings. Let's just say.
Well, that's a great point. So,
Yeah. I think.
okay,
I think that's wisdom. Again, we should be
yeah,
teaching and be students
yeah,
of wisdom.
yeah,
And there's a reason why those books and that teaching has stayed around and
yeah,
endured, because it's not just words. It's pure spirit, pure wisdom, pure intelligence, pure love, pure light, and pure life embodied when you are entering into the field of Jesus or those teachings. And if you're a Buddhist, there's a lot of things you could, or Hindu, I'm not making anything better or worse, but there's not just words, there's a field, and it will work on you even when you're not working on yourself.
whew, I'm tired. Listen, my man,
Come unto me, all thee that are heavy
you know,
laden in labor, and I shall give you rest.
oh, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Listen,
I had
Derek,
no idea we were going to go down the
no,
Jesus rabbit
no,
hole that far either. But
no, I didn't either. And,
Jesus
you know,
said, well, I got other plans for you boys.
you know, listen, and I'm just going to say somebody tried to interrupt us. I mean, I'm just saying, but listen, could you please share with
Oh,
the
yes.
audience where they can
Sure.
find you, websites, whatever you want to say is fine,
Sure.
please.
Well, first of all, the book is A Whole New Human, 10 Ways We Must Evolve to Survive and Thrive in the AI Age. And it's both a book on everything we've been talking about,
Mm.
and there's even Jesus quotes woven out throughout the book. I can't help myself. And it's really a survival and thrival guide for this brave new world we're entering, so that you, your family, your loved ones, your clients, your business, whatever, you can future-proof yourself, your life, your work, your wealth, and your well-being, and your, sanity. And really, and then also I layer in there how to work with the AI
Mm.
tools to leverage your deepest capacities so that you can expand your potential,
That's
you
right.
can scale your business or work or life, and you can become, really lay the foundation for long-term thriving in your life, in your work, and in your world. I think there's no more important conversation in general, because what's at stake
Yeah.
is our humanity and our sanity.
Yeah.
Um, and when you get it, you get what is essentially my life's work embodied in these AI tools that you can talk to and get coached by
Mm.
and work with to master what's in the book, and to help your friends or your children or yourself have a clear vision, a clear target, and a clear path forward. And then they can obviously go to derekrydall.com, DerekRydall.com. On the homepage, you'll see the button to click. It'll take you to the book page. You can also check out my YouTube. I got lots of trainings and videos on all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's basically
All of that
much
will
it.
be in the show notes. I can guarantee where you can just click on it and
And
it's
lots of
down
other
there
free,
somewhere.
free. I give away 90% of my stuff, so there's
Yeah.
maybe more. There's
Yeah.
lots of free trainings on my website.
Hmm.
Anything that can serve you in awakening to who you really are and why you're alive and living that great life that you've been given, so
Hmm.
that we can create a world that works for the
Yeah.
highest good of all.
Yeah.
That's my mission.
Listen, I just can't thank you enough for
Likewise, brother.
this just was I'm without words, and I'm just deeply grateful, and I sure hope that that folks are paying attention, and uh, probably the easiest thing for me to say, the most appropriate is God bless you, Derek Rydall. I appreciate you,
God
man.
bless you, Kevin,
Yeah,
and
big time.
everybody listening. Although I must end with one humble statement, as I said in the beginning, that phrase, those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know. I sure talk a lot. So you guys make up your own
Now,
conclusion.
so
That's
talk,
right.
and listen, that's your gift. I feel like my gift is watch out, because I may just very well use that in the podcast. But
That would be
yeah, man,
funny. That would be funny.
let's stay in touch, man. We got
You
to do
got
it.
it, brother, for
All
sure.
right,
We could do
all
a
right,
part two
all right.
even. Much
Likewise.
love, everybody.
Thank you.